Worst cave diving deaths ever by Simple Pen. Y'all know what to do. Is follow me on both J's here, Angie's there. Get tapped on my socials. Ain't no more yapping. Let's get right into it.
The sinkhole tragedy. On April 28, 2000, a 22-year-old Russian diving instructor named Yuri Lipsky arrived at the Blue Hole in Dahab, Egypt. He took a camera along to document his achievement. He planned to break his personal depth record as he decided to attempt a bounce dive. A bounce dive is when a diver drops to a maximum depth and returns immediately to the surface. This approach
Wouldn't that be dangerous for like rising nitrogen in your system?
cuts down time at depth and limits decompression needs, but it tempts less qualified divers to go deeper than they should. The Blue Hole sits on Egypt's Sinai
Yeah, I'm good off that, bro. Just the way this thing looking, nah, I'm straight.
Peninsula.
I'm good,
This
folks.
underwater sinkhole plunges more than 328 feet down.
Oh no, no.
So many divers have died there that the people in the area call it the Divers' Cemetery.
And yet this nigga's exploring it. It's called the Divers Cemetery. That's the problem with cave there. It could literally be called, oh yes, it's the Divers Cemetery. This is the Devil's Pen, and niggas still want to explore and do all this. And,
At
bro,
180 feet down, there is an underwater tunnel called the Arch that connects the hole to the open ocean. Most fatalities occur when divers attempt to swim through this tunnel. But Yuri's death happened somewhere else entirely. Tarek Omar, another diver who was more experienced with technical diving, had tried to talk Yuri out of the dive.
see,
But Yuri
bro, he was literally like, yo, bro, this is not it, bro. I got more XP than you, bro. I'm a higher level. You silver, I'm gold, and I'm telling you, this is not the way, bro. You gotta do something else, bro. Just chill the crib, bro. It ain't worth it, bro.
refused to listen. He was confident in his abilities because he was an instructor. He thought he knew what he was doing. At 5 p.m., Yuri prepared his camera at the surface, adding a red filter and making sure everything was set up. The date and timestamp showed on the recording. The sun was still shining through the water. After a while, Yuri began his descent with a single air tank. He had overworn himself with heavy gear. In the first 2 minutes, everything looked normal. Nothing special was happening. After 4.5 minutes into the video, his light began fading. By the 5-minute mark, darkness had surrounded him completely. At 5 minutes and 37 seconds, Yuri held his dive computer at the camera. The display read a depth of 266 feet. A rocky, sandy bottom appeared below him on screen, but Yuri was still sinking. It looked more like a slope than a
Nigga, go up.
flat surface. Moments later, he checked his computer again. The screen showed he was around 301 feet of depth down. Yuri tried to inflate his buoyancy compensator. The audio captured the effort clearly, but it did not work. His movements became frantic as he struggled with the camera. Finally, he released it onto the bottom, hoping to free both hands and restore buoyancy. The camera remained motionless on the sand. His breathing
Should have just stayed up, my nigga. Told you. Thought he was in, bro.
grew louder, and the diver computer's alarm continued beeping, but there was no escape. At 301 feet, Yuri consumed air 11 times faster than he would have at the surface.
Whoa.
His single cylinder was nearly empty. The excessive weight made it impossible to ascend. Even if he had wanted to ditch his weights, nitrogen narcosis at this depth would have clouded his judgment completely. His ability to make rational decisions was gone. The footage jumps ahead for about a minute. The camera was still on the bottom. Yuri's breath can still be heard, and the beeping continues. But Yuri Lipsky had already died face down at the bottom of the sea. A week later, Tarek Omar descended to recover his body along with the camera. Surprisingly, the camera was intact.
Would have been like, nigga, I fucking told you not to do this.
The recording preserved 7 minutes of Yuri's life, showing his worst nightmare as he sank to his death. Plura Cave Disaster. On February 6, 2014, 5 Finnish cave divers traveled to a small, secluded valley in northern Norway. They were experienced friends looking forward to a long weekend expedition into the Plura Cave system. The caves in Nordland are spectacular underground natural phenomena.
That's
created
cool, but we not like okay. If it's an open cave with a lot of space, okay, maybe. But when it's so small that I can barely fit, I'm straight off
by the
of it, bro.
massive formation of limestone in the mountains. The Plura Cave is 2.2 miles long, but only half of it has been explored. Cave divers from all over Europe travel to this remote location for the underwater adventure. The group of friends includes Patrick Grunkvist, Jari Huotarinen, Kai Kenkanen, Jari Usimeki, and Vesa Rantanen. They plan to start at a deep pool, travel underground through water-filled tunnels, and emerge in a dry cave called Steinugelflaget, which is about 1.2 miles
What fuck that shit means?
higher up.
I don't know
The
what
lowest
that
point of
shit
the
is.
dive section measured about 433 feet below the surface level. The divers plan to go in 2 teams. Patrick and Jari Huotarinen would dive first, and after 2 hours, the second team would follow the same route. The operation began at a pool near the Jordbrew farm in Plurdelin.
I
The ice
bet.
was thick, almost half a meter. The divers had to use a chainsaw to cut an opening, but the challenges were extreme. The water temperature was below freezing at -3 degrees Celsius. Each
Nah, let's go ahead and head back, bro. I know you finished, and I know you probably built this, but let's head back,
diver
bro.
carried equipment topside, weighing approximately 132 pounds. They used closed-circuit rebreathers carried on their backs, plus additional spare cylinders. Patrick and Jari Huotarinen entered the water and began their descent. They had been to this cave before. In fact, Patrick and Kai had been the first divers to find the passage through to Steinugelflaget back in autumn 2013. Roughly 1 hour into the dive, they reached the maximum depth of about 433 feet below the surface. On their way back up, they had to set aside 2 hours for decompression, stopping at regular intervals. Skipping decompression can cause decompression sickness, which is fatal. During ascent, Patrick realized that something was wrong. Jari had gotten stuck in a narrow passage. He was trapped in the most constricted part of the route between the deep section and Steinugelflaget. It is one of the worst things that can happen to a cave diver. At great depths, stress increases rapidly. The body produces more carbon dioxide under stress. Carbon dioxide is the most insidious danger a diver faces. It is more dangerous than running out of air. It kills. At that moment, Patrick checked his dive computer. It had shown roughly 120 minutes of required decompression time. Suddenly, it jumped to 400 minutes. His breathing was rapid. His heart rate was high. Regardless of decompression requirements, Patrick could not stay in the water any longer. He had
Yeah.
already been submerged
It is. It's GG's. It's unfortunate.
for 7
bro.
hours. His body was shutting down. On his way up, Patrick started thinking about the second team. They were 2 hours behind him. He had already swum past Jari Huotarinen's dead body, blocking the passage, but he had no way to warn the others. Patrick made it to the surface around 9
Yeah,
p.m.
even if you did try, you would die too, bro, because you ain't got no goddamn not only decompression sickness, but you need to chill. Bro.
Exhausted, disoriented, and freezing, he pulled himself out of the icy water and reached the dry cave alone. He waited in the darkness, hoping to see light beams or bubbles from his friends below. Hours passed, but no one came. Eventually, he walked down the snowy valley by himself, realizing something had gone terribly wrong. The last diver to surface was Kai. Before then, Jari Yu had seen his dead friend, Jari Huotarinen, stuck in the narrow passage. Jari Yu panicked at the sight and exhibited signs of distress diver. He tried switching between his equipment to find stability. Kai made an attempt to calm his friend down. He tried to help, but could not save him, and in a few moments, Jari Yu died. Then Kai found
I don't understand why niggas want to cave dive so bad. Like the last cave dive video I watched, some dudes like, yeah, bro, I used to cave dive, which is cool. That is fine. You want to do that, cool. But it's like, bro, like, nah, this shit dangerous as fuck.
Vesa struggling with the dead Jari Huotarinen's body that was blocking the passage. He was already breathing heavily. At that point, Kai was faced with an unfortunate decision. He's to either save his friend or save himself. But seeing that Vesa was unlikely to survive and he was already running out of bailout gas, Kai forced himself to turn around. On his way out, he thought all his friends were dead in the dark depths behind him. Around 1:30 a.m., he finally surfaced through the opening in the ice. He had survived a nightmare dive that lasted 12 hours. Fortunately for Vesa, he made it through. But Jari Huotarinen and Jari Usimeki were dead. Eagle's Nest Incident. On Saturday, October 15, 2016, 3 experienced cave divers arrived at Eagle's Nest in west central Florida. The site is a remote sinkhole in Chassahowitzka Wildlife Management Area, surrounded by pine trees. From the shore, it looks like an ordinary pond. Beneath the surface, it is shaped like a sink with a long, rocky drain. The passages descend into underwater caves, reaching 300 feet in depth. Chris Rittenmeyer and Patrick Peacock were highly trained technical divers. Both men were certified in full cave diving, Trimix breathing gas, closed-circuit rebreathers, and motorized underwater scooters. They had years of ocean and cave diving experience. Their friend Justin Blakely remained in the shallow section to explore the area while Chris and Patrick went deeper. The day before, on October 14th, Chris and Patrick had prepared the cave. They staged decompression gases and bailout bottles along their planned route in case of equipment failure. For divers using closed-circuit rebreathers, the normal procedure is to stay on the rebreather for the entire dive, including decompression. The staged open-circuit gases are backups in case the rebreather fails. Each diver was equipped with a closed-circuit rebreather, 2 side-mounted 95 cubic foot cylinders, 180 cubic foot safety bottle, and a scooter. They also towed a third scooter as backup. Around 2 p.m., Chris and Patrick entered the water and began their descent. The plan was for them to check in with Justin at 3 p.m. during their decompression stops. That way, he would know they were okay, but they never showed up at the checkpoint. Just in return
Oh, this shit. It's like the 5th video I've watched. Not even this. That's including reactions, bro. I be watching Astro Dior react to them hoes. It's like, God damn.
to the meeting point every 30 minutes, but there was no sign of his friends. By 6 p.m., he had notified the police. Search teams entered the cave that night. The first team checked the upstream passage based on what the support diver thought was their plan. They searched thoroughly, but found nothing. They returned and searched downstream, including an area called the Lockwood Tunnel. Still nothing. The first team surfaced around 3:30 a.m. The second search team entered at 3:45 a.m. to continue the downstream search. They immediately found both bodies on the exit side of an area called the Pit. The scene was documented
Interesting thing
for
I learned, I found out that the people that be doing the rescues, they're doing it for the love of the game, bro. They don't even get paid for this shit.
45 minutes. It was treated as a potential crime scene until law enforcement said otherwise. On Monday, October 17th, a gear recovery squad searched for equipment left in the cave. They found 2 scooters, Patrick's rebreather, and a 95 cubic foot emergency cylinder at the end of the guideline outside a restriction leading into an area called Revelation Space. The rebreather's loop was closed, and the unit appeared fully operational. All gear was removed and turned over to law enforcement. What actually occurred remains unknown. They did everything right. They had proper training. They had quality equipment. They set up the cave the day before. They had all the correct emergency and safety gases. They had surface support. But as Joe Satelli described the incident, sometimes bad things happen to good people for no apparent reason. Chris Rittenmeyer and Patrick Peacock died at 260 feet. Since 1981, at least 10 people had lost their lives at the Eagle's Nest. The Bali diving tragedy. On February 14, 2014, 7 Japanese women set out for a diving trip near Nusa Lembongan, a small island just east of Bali, Indonesia. 2 of them were diving instructors. The other 5 were tourists on holiday. All 7 were experienced divers with at least 50 successful log dives each. They were not...
Yeah, but it's like, bro, like even one bad mistake, man, you seen it, bro. They take one little itty bitty mistake for the whole
beginners.
Shit.
Nusa Lembongan is known for its stunning underwater beauty. Its colorful coral reefs, diverse marine life, and crystal clear water draw divers from around the world. But the area is also known for something else: strong, unpredictable ocean currents and a sudden change in water density. Around 1 p.m., the women began their 3rd dive of the day. The weather looked good when they entered the water. Their boat captain, Agustinus Brata Kusuma, followed them on the surface for about 20 minutes. Then suddenly, a storm hit. The water became cloudy and choppy. Large waves formed quickly. Then, the captain moved his boat several distances away to where the divers were expected to surface, but they never appeared. Kusuma searched the area for about an hour before he departed to buy fuel. When he returned, the divers were gone. At 3 p.m., he finally called the police. The 7 women had been swept away by powerful currents during the storm. Huge waves pushed them miles from their starting point. They struggled to remain together in the open ocean, battered by wind, rain, and swells. But they had no boat. No rescue was coming. They were alone. On the first day, Friday, there was no rain. They had no fresh water to drink. The sun burned their exposed skin. Dehydration sets in quickly in the tropical heat. Salt water surrounded them, but drinking it would kill them faster. On the second day, heavy rain came. They opened their mouths and drank rainwater, which kept them alive. By the 3rd day, Sunday, they were barely holding on. Their
this is fucking 2 days plus no food, barely any water. You can't do shit but just
bodies were shutting down from exhaustion.
This made me realize how good I have it, bro. I just get to sleep, eat, and chill when I want.
Sun exposure and dehydration. On Monday morning, February 17th, local fishermen spotted 4 of the women clinging desperately to a coral reef near Nusa Penida Island. They were about 12 miles from where they had started their dive. A rescue boat was dispatched. The 5th woman, instructor Saori Furukawa, was found floating nearby, and she was picked up by a helicopter. All 5 women were rushed to hospitals. They suffered from severe sunburn, dangerous dehydration, and deep abrasions from the coral, but none were in serious condition.
Good.
Against all odds, they had survived 3 days in the open ocean by drinking rainwater and clinging to whatever they could find. On Tuesday, February 18th, the body of Ritsuko Miyata was found floating near Serangan Beach in South Bali. The 59-year-old woman was almost unrecognizable. She had been in the water for days. Some of her hair was gone. She was still wearing her wetsuit and flippers. The search team continued for the 7th diver, Shoko Takahashi, 29. She was a diving instructor who had moved to Bali and married a local man. She ran the dive operator Yellow Scuba with her husband. What was supposed to be a fun day out with clients and
It's
friends
like, bro, it's like that's the thing with Cave. That's like one bad thing and everything is
became
cooked.
a worst nightmare. Days passed, then weeks, and exactly 1 month later, on March 17th, 2014, Shoko's body was found washed ashore on Sempu Island in East Java. The island is about 250 miles from where she disappeared. Ocean currents had carried her body across vast stretches of sea for an entire month. The boat captain, Agustinus Brada Kusuma, was arrested and charged with negligence causing death and injury. Prosecutors argued that he abandoned his responsibility. According to the rule, a dive boat captain is supposed to stay with divers, especially during bad weather. Instead, he left 7 women alone in the open ocean during a storm so he could buy fuel.
Yeah, doing that is crazy. I'm not gonna lie, bro. It's like the moment that happens, you immediately like. If my job is to make these women okay and make their day straight, I'm immediately calling authorities. I'm trying to find them. All that shit, bro.
2 women died. 5 survived by clinging to rocks and coral while drinking rainwater for 3 days in the ocean. At a press conference after their rescue, the 5 survivors bowed and apologized for causing trouble and requiring rescue efforts. They thanked everyone who had searched for them. The captain faced criminal charges that could result in years in prison. If you'd like
That's tough. But hey, let me know what y'all think, man. Thank y'all for tapping in with the stream. It's your boy Jay. Stay healthy, stay oafy, and stay blessed. I love y'all, man. We gonna get these videos uploaded. We gonna keep grinding, keep making this money, keep getting better every single day. I love y'all. Peace.